Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris, aka Starrapter, joined as always by Milton and by Ben for Outer Rim Transmission number 46. On this week's episode, we're going to get into our final thoughts on the entire season as a whole for the Book of Boba Fett. Plus, we're going to get into a lot of High Republic content, some more gaming content, some more Kenobi news, and much, much more. So I hope you're ready because it's going to be a very news heavy episode. So how's everybody doing this week?
I'm good, man. It's good to be back on the podcast like always. I know we had a lot of news this week, so we'll probably be focusing on that in today's, or actually tonight's podcast.
Heck yeah. It's the week after a brand new series has ended and Lucasfilm wastes no time to just get some more stuff out there for us to chew on in the meantime, because it's going to be a little bit of a wait till May 25th, but well, Bad Batch might be in there eventually, maybe. But other than that, I think it's some good stuff to keep us going forward. What about you, Ben? What do you think about this?
Yeah, funny thing you bring up Bad Batch, actually. So,
real quick, your mic is a little bit off.
Okay.
Sounds a little robotic. As we finish that, I'll just jump into my Star Wars week. And I was with my girlfriend, and I heard the news that we're getting a new Old Republic cinematic. And well, I said, this is a great time as any. I'm at a place that actually has a 4K TV because I don't personally own one, but she has one. So we went and we watched all the cinematics for the Old Republic. And let me tell you, those things really hold up well, especially in 4K. It was like incredible watching them on the big screen and just reliving like the good old memories. Because I've seen those things probably more than any other trailers, period, in general.
Right.
Like I've watched those so many times. I know, Milton, you're really high up on those things. So we went there.
For sure.
It's just fantastic. It's so good storytelling.
Yeah, I watch him at least, every other week. I mean, because usually if I do cardio or something, it's some type of Star Wars or Dragon Ball Z type, and those cinematics are just as good as any movie I've seen over the last 20 years. Like, it's great storytelling, like you said. Even the new one that was presented over the past week. So, and we'll get into it. But yeah, like I love those cinematics. I watch them all day, every day, and I just wish we can get more of that in a feature or even like a streaming show.
Yeah. I mean, they gotta have something up their sleeve, especially if they're gonna continue to make these cinematics. Because I think the last one that we had was probably back for Knights of the Eternal Throne with Phelan and with her mother and everything escaping that place and all that. That was way back when. But hey Ben, is your mic ready yet?
Yeah, I should be here.
There we go. You're good.
Okay, cool. So to jump in real quick on my thought I was going to say earlier. So me and my buddy were talking this week, and we're kind of thinking they might do a surprise May the 4th Bad Batch drop, like start the season there, actually, if you're thinking about it, because, we have Kenobi the end of May, and like there's presumably nothing coming out on May the 4th that we know of. And we're like, hey, if Bad Batch is 16 episodes long, maybe they'll start at May the 4th, and then it'll run, overlapping with Kenobi, and, eventually bump into or end and then run into Andor this fall.
There's a lot of creative ways they can get around Bad Batch. I know I heard people saying, hey, what if they do like 8 episodes before Kenobi and then come back like halfway through in the summer? Because that's what Stranger Things announced season 4 this week, and they're doing like 4 episodes in May, then coming back in July. So, I mean, that's very much a possibility. They've done that in the past with other animated series, like Rebels would have like that mid-season finale and take a break and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities for streaming. Yes, it would be weird, but again, do they really want to step on their toes for any of their live action stuff? Is it possible they'll have stuff, airing the same time? That is the interesting thing when we have this much content coming out in a single calendar year for Star Wars. They might have to get creative with this.
Well, here's the thing. For sure, Star Wars isn't having anything May the 4th that we know of right now. But when it comes to Marvel, we're not going to have any Marvel shows either, because that week is Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, yeah, that's correct. That's very interesting there. I mean, wow, that's going to be one busy week if that's the case.
Yep. That's what got me thinking about all of that, really.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of wiggle room, and the reason why I'm so adamant about this is because literally in a printed issue of Star Wars Insider magazine, it says spring 2022. So spring starts pretty soon, and there's only so many months before we get into summer, so there's not a lot of wiggle room there. Not a lot of wiggle room, but I'll throw it over to Milton, man. How's it been going? Is you in Star Wars? What's up with that? Anything this week?
Honestly, not this week. I mean, I guess the normal. When I do see Star Wars stuff, I watch it or I check it out. But it's really been nothing this week that stands out that's catch my eye. Probably except for the Old Republic cinematic trailer. I've watched that a handful of times. Again, I'm actually really excited to talk about that just because I have a lot of good things to say in the sense of how it looked. Now, I know you, Chris. I know you said you might have some negative things about that. I guess about the extension.
Oh, the expansion. Yeah.
Yeah, the expansion. Again, because I haven't played it and I don't really play those games. I just like the cinematics.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
wait for the reboot that they're going to put on the actual like main consoles. I will play that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the video game space, which I'm really happy about. I mean, the remake is going to be on Knights of the Old Republic, so that story takes place about 300 years. Remember, that's Bastila Shan, that's Revan, that's Kathanavsi, Canderous Order, all those guys. It's about 300 years before Darth Malgus and the cinematic trailers that we all know and love. But we gotta
Right.
throw it back to you, Ben, man. Anything going on this week with Star Wars?
Other than that
Besides
cinematic,
besides
pardon me?
apparently dodging the Kenobi spoilers.
Yeah, if you're, yeah, red flag for anybody who doesn't want to get spoiled about Kenobi, just avoid looking up the topic in depth on social media because if you do, you're headed down a dark path to the truth, basically. So, yeah, definitely avoid that. But yeah, my week overall has been really good. Nothing too exciting for Star Wars in my life, other than that cinematic. We'll get into that, and just talking to people about Star Wars is always such a fun thing, whether it be like through social media and it was funny Wednesday, a couple days ago, my grandma, I always joke around about her, but she actually called me Wednesday afternoon. She was like, "Hey, there isn't any more of that Book of Boba Fett show." And I was like, "No, unfortunately, that was the finale." She's like, "Well, when's Mandalorian coming out?" And I'm like, "Well, you got some time there." I said, "But at least there's the Kenobi show." So it's like, it's cool having like seeing even an older relative like get excited about that. She's going to be 75 in June and she's like excited about Star Wars. So that's always a really cool thing.
Yeah, that's the same thing I've been going through, right? Is coworkers, even my mom's like, no Book of Boba Fett this week, right? I'm like, nope, it's all done. So people are wanting more, and an interesting thing about wanting more, and this is, I guess I can kind of jump around with our stories this week, and since we're already kind of talking about it, there's been good ratings for the Book of Boba Fett finale. This is reported by Deadline specifically. Very credited site, as we all know. They are saying that it actually got about 1.1 million people in U.S. households. This is per Samba TV metrics. The season 1 finale. Yeah, so that's possible there. About 30. It says 36% higher than the 5-day finale draw of The Mandalorian. So
yeah, I just think that was shocking. When I sent that to you guys in the group chat, I was completely surprised because, a lot of us hardcore Star Wars sweaties, we weren't like super, super thrilled with how Book of Boba played out. And then, the actual numbers say, hey, the finale was viewed more than the other finales for Mando. So it makes you wonder. I raised the point in our chat, like, us. So we're in the niche. I mean, we're sitting here talking Star Wars on a podcast on a Friday night. We're definitely in the niche. So the thing that I wonder is the greater audience, like the greater overall audience, did they view this season as a really good season of, they're finally getting Boba Fett unveiled to them and stuff. They got some Mando, they got some Grogu. So it makes you wonder for like the greater overall audience, was this season a really good success? And I would potentially say yes, just because of that specific reason right there, the finale.
Yeah,
right?
and I will go to my barometer as always is my coworkers who are just casual fans and the mainstream more or less, and they're always like, "Hey," I keep asking, "Hey, what'd you think of this? What'd you think of that?" "Oh, I really enjoyed the episode," and like they don't ever like say like, "Oh, it's negative because this and that," and I look at them as the everyday kind of man, and I think that's the numbers that we can pull from this report is like these are the everyday man, whatever, the Jack and Jill of the United States or whatever. Yeah, they're gonna watch it every week, and then the fact that there's more of them than the Mandalorian just absolutely shocks me. But I think that that also goes into the word of mouth and the kind of snowball effect of those last three episodes, which brought in the Mandalorian and kind of brought, I think, a lot more of a viewing audience when people were like, "Hey, that Mandalorian guy's back in the Book of Boba Fett," and that I'm sure that got those last three episodes a lot higher up than maybe the third and fourth episode of the series, which started to kind of slow down a little bit. What about you,
Right.
Milton? What'd you think about this?
Well, yeah, it's like I said last week. I mean, you got to sprinkle the Mando dust on the show. I mean, Boba Fett's a great character in the sense of his legacy and his impact on Star Wars. So he's already got an audience. However, as we talked about it last week, the character himself was taking kind of a hit. I think Ben's always pointed it out. They've really like depowered him throughout this season.
From Mando season 2.
Yeah, for sure. And so what they had to do, and I don't know if they anticipated this, but again, you sprinkle the Mando dust where like, okay, we love that character. Again, episode was it 4? No, 4 when he showed up, right? Or
Mhm.
5. He shows up in episode 5 and we all lose our shit because Mando's the lead in that episode and how it ties into Boba Fett. Then we go to episode 6, Grogu shows up. We're like, oh my God, we lose our shit because Grogu's back. You bring those lead characters from this particular universe into this particular show to boost it. And that's why people were probably saying, okay, how is Mando and Grogu going to affect Boba Fett's, turn or character arc with him trying to take over as a Don of the underworld. So people were really trying to see what was Grogu and let's be real here, Grogu and Mando was all about in his upcoming finale. So I'm not surprised the numbers were the way they were. I'm actually, my brother even said, he was like, the finale was one of my favorite episodes. And, I disagree with him and how I felt about it. But again, like, I'm probably more of a nerd than my brother when it comes to Star Wars. And you're right. They need to market to these randos, not to the sweaties who are going to always watch it. So it's the honest to God truth. So I'm not surprised we got the numbers that they got. And I'm glad they did because hopefully pushing forward, we get a season 2. And I hope that Filoni and John will say, okay, let's look at what mistakes we made and improve upon those in season 2.
Yeah, I think that's. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, I had a quick point. So, like, here's the thing about that as well. So, I think honestly, it's great. Obviously, it's great. It's being like widely positively received, but it's great in terms of we got to think about it from like an MCU standpoint. The lead up to Avengers, the first Avengers movie, we had all these separate movies taking place. And presumably right now we're leading up to the Avengers Thrawn event of the Mandoverse. So I think a lot of these shows, obviously they're leading to that point. But, sure, Book of Boba, for us hardcore fans, may have not been like the best thing ever. But for the general audience members, all you need is their approval, because then when you get to that Avengers event endgame style thing, then that's when you really rake in the viewership, really rake in the people subscribing, really rake in everything, because you'll have the hype. Because all of the hardcore nerds are not what made up, the Avengers breaking all the box office records. It was all the general audience members that got hooked on the Avengers universe getting built up over all those years and all those let's just say seasons, meaning, new movies, but seasons, all those new seasons of movies. So basically, that's what we're getting in the Mandoverse. We're getting all these new seasons to build up to the Avengers of Star Wars. And I think that's going to be a huge payoff in the long run, because that's going to rake in so much more of the general audience, because they'll be like, oh, wow, we have this big event film of Mando and Boba and Luke and Ahsoka and Grogu and this and that and the other thing. Like, I think that's the overall purpose and direction they're heading. And, this show, it'll just be another point where people will be able to look back on from that film and go, oh, that's where that plays in.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're playing the long game, and we just got to look at, hey, what's the continuation of this, right? Like they have the master plan already, right? Whatever they have planned, Disney's automatically going to say, okay, go ahead. Like they are the ones that were bringing so much success to Disney Plus. Wasn't for Mandalorian and Grogu, I would be very surprised to see what the numbers would be because it's all about them that really made it big. There was no Marvel project on there originally. That was what you had, and it was great. So maybe further down the line, they're like, oh, I guess we can maybe add a second season of Book of Boba Fett if it gets better. But I think ultimately they already have ideas for what's going on, and we know the main story is probably going to be Boba Fett in The Mandalorian. His story continues in that, but hey, maybe this helps them say down the road they add another season and be more direct toward him with all the success. So interesting. Yeah, and we are going to talk more about the Book of Boba Fett because that is our main topic for today. We're going to be breaking down, of course, spoilers are ensue because we have plenty of things to talk about as these first 7 episodes of the series, and maybe the only, we'll see. We got everything from Slave One returning to the death of a Sarlacc pit to Boba Fett riding on a Rancor to the Pikes fighting against all these people of Maz Espa to a Naboo starfighter being retrofitted for Mandalorian. So much happened in this season. Let's just start off with the highlights. Let's start off with the good things that really jumped out to us as some of the best things we've maybe seen in Star Wars. I'm going to throw it over to Milton.
Yeah, I think one of the things that stand out to me is the music of this show. I think thus far the music when it comes to these series have been very much on point. Well, who was the composer? Do we know? Was it the same one from Mandalorian?
So I think there was another. I wish I had the credit for this guy right now,
Okay,
but there was another person that did a lot of it. But he used the themes from Ludwig Göransson, and
right.
I do believe
Yeah,
Ludwig Göransson probably did a couple of the later themes with like the Force
right.
stuff. I think, but I think a
Yeah.
large majority was this other guy, the assistant or
Okay.
whoever you call him.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, I love the music. I think most of the Star Wars music in general I've always been, into. So I love the music. That was a very good, it's a standout because that music itself tells a story within, the universe. Obviously the visuals, when it comes to Star Wars, a lot of practical effects, they went that far, but also the technology of the CGI has greatly improved. And this is a series, not a movie. So their budget's not at, the movie level in a sense, but the technology has caught up so much. You can do a series and make it look very much cinematic. Um, I think the overall scope of what we were seeing throughout the world building of the Mandoverse was pretty cool. Just seeing like the elements of like the underworld of the criminal element, which was cool because again, we've talked about this, we've read about it. Hell, there could have been a video game almost 1313 when it comes to the criminal element. We've gotten a lot more of that now, and I really appreciate them showing that. Um, there's a lot more good I can speak on, but I'm gonna let you guys jump in and take over.
Yeah, I will say, kind of jumping off your point about the coolness of the underworld. I like how we got so much world building for Tatooine. Like getting those flashbacks with Boba Fett and the Tusken Raiders, getting again a different lens of the Tusken Raiders. They're not, oh, they are cracked out to be sure. In the first episode, they look like complete savages. What they're doing with Boba Fett, you feel sorry for the guy being dragged behind a bantha through the heat of Tatooine suns. But we get to see that culture from him on the inside, seeing how they are very much a warrior kind of people. They recruit by strength and respect that and courage and all that. But then you have how sacred water is. And we haven't seen anything quite like that. We got a couple things in the journal of Ben Kenobi and some of the initial Star Wars comics with those flashback comics. And, Jabba has attacks on the water, and we're seeing Obi-Wan kind of intervene with some of the townsfolk to help that out. But we're getting that on a whole different level. We're learning about Tatooine actually having like this entire world of water at one point, which was pretty mind blowing to me. Seeing the amount of these like watermelon thingies like hidden in the sand, black melon, I think he calls them. So seeing how life and death revolves around Tatooine in ways we haven't even seen before was something that stood out to me.
Oh yeah, those those are both really good standout points. Like you both said, the music, the water, like different mind blowing things like that. For me, I like I said, I have to love both of those things. But for me, I really think the big thing that hit it home for me was I felt like they did a lot of things that we've been looking for, quote unquote, right. Like, for example, start the series with Boba coming up out of the star, like out of the sand. Like, that's something we've all been dreaming of ever since we saw Return of the Jedi, basically. So, we got that. We got Boba riding a Rancor. We got the Slave One in action with Boba piloting it. Like, we got Cad Bane in live action. We got Luke looking amazing like he did in 1983. We've got so many things that I feel like check the boxes for like hardcore fans, check the boxes for the general audience. You get general audience and hardcore fans. The cuteness of Grogu, like you hit a lot of the check boxes. I feel like we're needing in Star Wars. So like, I think we're transitioning with Star Wars to a point where, like, I'm not the biggest Marvel guy, don't get me wrong, but like when it comes to Marvel, I feel like you have check boxes of certain tropes that are in Marvel that is kind of like the signature Marvel feel to it. And this show, I felt like hit a lot of notes where, we got the Star Wars feel to the show, if that makes sense. Like they were checking a lot of the boxes that need to be checked. And I think that's something that was missed in some of the past movies we've gotten lately. So I feel like, they hit a lot of the check boxes we need as an audience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are certain archetypes, certain things we expect. Large CGI action sequences, stories of singular characters that start at point A and end up at point B. Just good overall themes, good and evil. Stuff like that is just pure Star Wars, obviously, but seeing it in a slightly different light and portrayed in a series that, while it is pertaining to Star Wars, there are certain elements where it doesn't feel like anything we've quite seen before as far as the storytelling and the speed in which the storytelling is told. So there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't agree with you more. Like I think that's one of the biggest, most important things is storytelling, and that's something we've been dealing with ever since A New Hope. And you point out like the themes of like good and evil, and like that's one of the best parts too. I feel like of this series is sure there were underlying messages like Boba like learning lessons and things like that, but I feel like they did keep things simple to a degree. Like we saw in A New Hope, it was pretty basic. Like, hey, Luke wants to go on an adventure, and he joins the good guys versus the bad guys. Like there was no complicated, over subverting expectations type deal. Like there's nothing like that. Like it literally was simple like that. And I feel like the Book of Boba kept a pretty simple message of like, hey, Boba's character's transitioning from bounty hunter to whatever he became at the end of the series, whether I agree or disagree with it. Like they kept that consistent message of him transitioning from basically a bad guy to a good guy. And, those points were made pretty clear, and it was made clear, the Pikes were evil. Boba had good intentions. Like they kept the message pretty simple, which is a good thing because, they don't need to overcomplicate it. It's not that complicated. Like all three of us have talked about it before. Star Wars fans are easy to please. And like, you don't have to make this over convoluted, complicated movie or show. Just give us a good, solid story and we'll be good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. Like you're not wrong. That's why I think a lot of people. That's why New Hope is such a good film, because it's a movie that didn't, honestly, at the time, even looking at it now, it holds up without needing the prequels of the original trilogy or the prequels of the sequel trilogy. It's a good beginning, middle, and end film. And if they didn't make sequels to that film, that's a good movie for how it was made in 1977. So
you could have it as a standalone movie.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely. So it was great storytelling how George, created it, and obviously the other films makes it even stronger. Yeah, you're not wrong. When pleasing us as fans, you give us the simple meat and potatoes of Star Wars, and you sprinkle in, the cake and candy once in a while, we'll be fine.
Yep. Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so I mean, we'd be remiss if we talked about a discussion of the Book of Boba Fett and didn't talk about the character of Boba Fett. Because I mean, when you look at this show, right, Book of Boba Fett, we expect to spend a good amount of time with Boba Fett. We expect to go into the story and at least know a little bit more about Boba Fett. And I think we definitely learned a little bit more than just a small amount of Boba Fett. We learned a lot. And what I expected about this is the fact that we get these flashbacks to Boba Fett, not just 5-minute scenes in every episode. There was episodes where the majority of the storytelling was done several, I guess, weeks or months in the past, judging by what I can kind of see. But and seeing Boba Fett out of the armor so much, right? The whole purpose or the whole idea behind the hype behind Boba Fett is his armor. That's why people got obsessed with this character. He said 5 lines in the original trilogy. It wasn't his dialogue, it was his persona. It was the way he carried himself. It was the way he appeared in that armor, had that cool voice, and didn't say a whole lot, but just looked like a badass. So the fact that the writers and the directors and everybody involved creatively said, hey, let's take a look at decompressing the character of Boba Fett and even adding more and taking away what everybody knows about him. Knows of him as this ruthless bounty hunter in this Mandalorian Beskar armor. So that was pretty electrifying for me to be like, yeah, we're actually gonna figure out who Boba Fett is, and I think they did a pretty good job at that.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I remember, I guess, whenever when Lucasfilm was purchased by Disney, how they talked about the idea of doing a Boba Fett film, and all the YouTube heads out there were like, "Oh, if they're gonna do a Boba Fett movie, or don't take off his helmet, I don't want to see his face. I don't want to see Boba sitting there moping and drinking and getting hammered. All that character development stuff." And looking back on it, that's such a simple, stupid take, because I am not trying to watch a show for 6 weeks of a guy in a helmet, show no character development at all. It would have been a very stale show. With Darth Vader, we saw him for 3 movies with a helmet on, but you got to feel character development. And this is prior to the prequels. So you cared about Vader because George Lucas wrote him in a way where you wanted to feel for him. You wanted to understand his psyche. Boba Fett, I'm glad we got to get his helmet off. I wanted to see what he was all about. Again, being stuck in a Sarlacc pit and not knowing if he survived or not, it's good to see how he changed as a character. Now, obviously, as the 3 of us can probably agree, we didn't like how they took away some of the ruthlessness of him. But overall, though, we understand that from the prequels to the Clone Wars, the original trilogy, and to now, that character has changed, and we need to see how those changes evolved him into now saying, like, I don't want to do what I normally did. I want to change and have a better life. And he says it. He talks about that with Finnick at one point. He mentions they were in the sand or the dune. He's like, listen, I'm tired of being a hard hand. These people are idiots that we work for. We're smarter than them. Why don't we take over? Like that's what normal people would do in real life. Like if I'm working for a boss that's trash and put me in bad situations, why don't I become the boss eventually? Why don't I work hard and try to over? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. So I think that was smart.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I completely agree with both of you guys. It was great seeing Boba get basically more and more explained, but also just like we said, we could have had a little more action with him. Of course, we've talked about those gripes for basically the past 6 weeks. But my thing with Boba is I got thinking about it last weekend after we got done with our finale episode. So, I really got thinking about this whole character development thing with him. And we always have to reference the CW Arrowverse on this podcast. This is basically sponsored by CW at this point. So for anybody that's seen Arrow, Oliver Queen, when he first comes back and he's the Green Arrow, he's like killing people, taking people out, etc. But his character develops, to where he doesn't kill people anymore, basically. And then by the end of the series, like, you have so many fight sequences, like, there's a scene where he busts out of a prison and he's like taking on like 20, 30 people, but he's not killing them. He's just like disarming them and stuff and still being badass. And like, that's the thing I think, basically the direction they need to go with Boba. Like, if you're going to power him down, because that's basically what they did for Mando season 2. But if you're going to power him down some, at least still make him have some badass moments. Like the finale did do a good job, in my opinion, of, having him have some highlight moments, kind of like how Oliver did, even after he changed from killing people. Like he still kicks some ass. And that was, one of the best parts about Boba, I think. Like, at least, even though he was a nice guy for the most part for the whole series, at least we still got to see him jump into action in the finale.
Right. Well, and here's the thing, though, too, like the comparison with Oliver and Boba, they're both walking weapons. They're both lethal weapons. Yeah, they may be nicer guys and they may be evolving into, human beings, quote unquote, like, but you still don't want to mess with them. Like, like they're going to wreck shop. And like I said, I just think some of that was inconsistent at times. We did get to see flashes of it throughout this show.
Yeah. So do you guys have anything else you want to talk about that you especially enjoyed from the Book of Boba Fett?
I mean, obviously seeing Luke,
yeah,
seeing Grogu,
yeah.
seeing Mando, seeing Ahsoka. Like, I mean, I didn't expect that, because I think I watched that episode that night, and you guys talked about it, but I kind of avoided it because I knew you guys said someone was going to be there that I was going to like. But yeah, I love seeing, dude, that CGI. I mean, I know this is a Boba Fett episode, but give me a Luke series, okay? Like, that CGI is so good, like, just from 1 year ago.
And here's the
now,
thing.
it's like, damn.
Here's the thing, right? We're going to get, like, probably Luke, like, maybe once a year is my guess, right? Like, he's going to show up in something at least once a year. But every time we see him, we're going to have this reaction, I feel like. Every time we're going to see him, we're going to be like, how did they make him look better? How did they make him look even better than last year? And it's eventually going to be so, like, impossible to make it better that he's just going to get his own series because they're going to be like, okay, We're happy with where it is. Let's do it.
Let's get it. Yeah, and I cannot wait because, just like I said, I've been saying it since day one. The most series I'm anticipated for, hype for, is Obi-Wan. And I assume that if they write Obi-Wan, that I think they're going to write it, I think Luke will get the same treatment because he's Luke. There's no way you screw up that series. There's no way you make him look bad in that show. So, again, I was pleased with that. I was surprised. I love that little Easter egg. And I'm glad they only used him for one episode. That was perfect. I think, Chris, you might have mentioned, or even Ben, how when they do bring in characters that are, special and legacy characters, it's like, hey, they know how to sprinkle them in. They did that with Ahsoka this year, even last year. They did it with Luke the last 2 years, so I love it.
Yeah, the connections to the wider Mandoverse, right? This is our first steps into a larger world as far as the Mandoverse is concerned, right? We didn't know going into this, like, how much it would cross over, to the degree it would cross over, who would cross over. So now looking ahead, like, this is a good model, I would say, of what we could expect from a series such as Ahsoka, or if we ever get a Rangers of the New Republic off the ground. Now we can kind of be like, okay, well, we can have anything's game now. If Luke Skywalker shows up, if Ahsoka shows up, anything is possible for any character from any series at this point. Nobody's beholden to a single series, which is nice because now we can really have fluidity, and this feels like one giant story rather than, oh, this is a side story. Because we had Mando, we had Grogu. Their lives were influenced by the conflict with the Pikes on Tatooine. Whether you like it or not, them showing up, their lives were influenced. Even Luke was influenced because he has to deal with the repercussions of his first Jedi just maybe not actually wanting to go with him. So what is he going to do now? He doesn't have a little apprentice anymore. So everybody gets affected, and it's going to be really cool just seeing, again, how this keeps going forward, just sort of like the brother of all of this with Star Wars, which is the MCU, and how we keep seeing that move along in succession with each other of their movies and their TV series.
Oh yeah, that's the best, and it's great that they're under the same umbrella too. So, they can basically look across the aisle and be like, "Hey, how's the MCU doing it?" So, that's a good way. Star Wars can kind of keep themselves in check, basically. Like, hey, let's make sure we're kind of straying along the lines like of what's popular. And what's popular right now is, whether we agree or disagree or like it or not, what's popular now, in my opinion, is cameos, no matter what it is, movies, shows, etc. Like, what people want is cameos, it seems like. And as long as you incorporate cameos properly, that's totally fine. Like, I'm sure many of you seen like the Michael Keaton stuff. Like apparently he's cameoing in a lot of these upcoming DC things. So you have cameos as long as they appear properly. That's it'll work. And like for me, for example, the Mando and Grogu cameos, well, basically slash episodes in this series in Book of Boba. I think that was one of the most positive things. They played pretty well. They did kind of like dominate a little bit in those episodes, but to me, I think one of the best parts that was overall really good for the series and good for the audience as a whole is the Mando and Grogu reunion, because I mentioned it last week, like the symbolism of like the Mandalorians being a warring culture, and then Grogu's first task or whatever as a Mandalorian, he's going into battle with Mando or with Din. So like I think it's really cool symbolically, like it played out that way. And I think we'll get to a point where Din even references that at some point. Maybe he's talking in the armor at some point. He's like, hey, this kid, took down a rank war, basically. Like, I think we'll get potential callbacks to this series from other series, so it'll really make this feel like a, crossing over universe.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, people watching, people after the fact listening, because we are a podcast as well, you can listen to us, but they're gonna have to realize, these people, that they can't go from season 2 of Mandalorian to season 3, because it's gonna be a train wreck. People, I can see it now all over social media. How did Grogu go from leaving to being in the next episode? What is all this Tatooine stuff they're talking about? You got to go watch it.
Yep, that's one of. See, okay. Let me rephrase that. Grogu and Mando reuniting was one of the most positive parts of this series, but it's one of the most negative parts for the Mandoverse as a whole, because for the people who only watch Mandalorian, basically now the payoff for Grogu and Mando reuniting doesn't mean anything, because it was done in a different show. And I got thinking about that as well. It's like, so you start a payoff in one show, and then you're going to put it in a different show. But what if people aren't watching that? Like, that would be like, starting up whatever, like say Luke popping up at the end of Force Awakens, and then him just not popping up until like some other side story mission, and not even addressing it. Like, I don't know. It's just, I think it's kind of weird how they did it, because I feel like, honestly, like with a critical view on it, I feel like you should have saved that moment for the Mandalorian show itself.
Yeah, there could be a lot said and spoken about.
I don't know.
Hey, does this feel earned? Does this feel like it's the right time, because it was just literally a year ago? But it all comes down to money. I hate to say it, and those Disney execs were probably like, look, you're telling us we're gonna wait 2 years for no, you got to put them in there now. Like I could see that happening.
Well, honestly, and this is where I agree with Ben on a negative, in the sense of, bringing Grogu. Look, the one episode was fine, with him being with Luke. They could have waited to bring him back, for season 3 after that episode. Like they could have wrote that differently and kept it as a cliffhanger, and try to incorporate it like in beginning of season 3. I mean, again, I don't think you're right, Ben. They shouldn't have done it that way. However, I agree with Chris. I can see the executive saying no. Grogu, we need that Grogu dust. That he brings in too much money, and little girls, little boys, and little non-Star Wars fans, or hardcore or little non-hardcore fans love that character. We need him back. So it's 100% marketing and financial gain. Let's be real here.
Yeah. That's 100%. I guarantee you they saw the script for Book of Boba and said, "Hold up here. How can we incorporate that Baby Yoda guy into this series?"
Facts.
And they said, "Okay, we'll rewrite a couple episodes. We'll rework some things. And you know what? Just to do the payoff, let's just do it now, because we got to get them back together anyways." And I feel like,
go ahead.
I feel like, we all we're like, I mean, you even just said it, Milton. You're like, oh, well, I mean, I even said it too. Like, we could have waited for the payoff for Mando season 3, blah, 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 blah. But the thing is, it still was such a huge, smashing success. And that gives Disney the proof right there to go, oh, wait, why make them wait 2 or 3 years when we can just make them wait like 11 months, 10, 11 months and give it to them anyways, and they still go wild because, especially, with today's social media age where like the newest thing is the best thing ever. So basically, so many people overreact, like, they're just living on hype of Grogu and Mando.
Right. Well, and you have the reaction culture on YouTube where people react to videos and stuff. Again, I watched 20 minutes of reaction videos of just Grogu training with Luke, and literally every person watching it got emotional. And the girls who were watching it were like, "Oh, baby!" Like they love that character. Star Wars ain't stupid. Kathleen Kennedy knows we need more females in Star Wars, or a bigger female audience. So Grogu is that link. That's smart. And let's be real here. Star Wars, and Chris, you might have to edit this down the road. I don't know, but Star Wars is going to whore out Grogu. Let's be real here. Like they're going to.
Milton, I was literally just about to say that too. So here, I wasn't about to word it that way, but
I mean, kids. I'm just saying.
It's true. Hey, if it makes you money.
There's the thing.
Truth. But here's the thing. I guarantee you, we may not think it now, but I guarantee you Mando and Grogu are going to appear in Ahsoka, and they're going to appear in the Rangers of the New Republic show, because right now they're the Green Arrow of this Mandoverse, where they're going to appear in all of these shows, and I think it's going to be an exciting point for all these series.
Right. Oh yeah, I'll be honest with you. Every time he pops up, I'll be like, "Oh, fire! Let's go!" Like,
yeah. Well, you know why though, Milton? It's because they've developed both Din and Grogu's characters so well.
Yeah.
We view them as such good developed characters. We're like, as soon as like the 4th episode of this season, when you get the Mandalorian theme at the end of the episode, I was so hyped because everybody gets so hyped when it's Din now. I'm like locked onto the screen, like, okay, let's watch here.
Oh yeah. So let's continue with talking about maybe some things we didn't enjoy as much. I'm gonna start this one off. I think we could have gotten some more with Tatooine. Whether or not they could have balanced other episodes out with content and stuff like that to fit in a little bit more backstory, because we did start to get some cool stuff about the criminal syndicates, but I feel like they just didn't get enough into there. Plus, there was like certain aside things, like very quick exchanges, like for instance, like the city rats or the city scurriers and the desert people, like they both don't get along. But I wanted to see like maybe they hinted at something that's like, hey, let's see more of that. Let's see like a little like bickering between these people before they get into the situation, or something like that. Like they were able to like tease enough, but it just didn't go deep enough for me of all the smaller stuff on the outside of the main story.
So you said that we didn't get enough of Tatooine. Just make sure I'm clear.
Enough of like the culture, I would say. Enough of the peoples that make up Tatooine.
Okay. Because I guess my negative would be, I think we're on Tatooine way too much. And again, I hear what you're saying, Chris, and I do agree in the sense of what you're trying to say. So I don't want anyone to get it twisted that I'm being a jerk about that. What I'm saying is, like, I wanted to see him travel more like out of galaxy, and just try to have more of a grip on what he's trying to do, like expand his branch at Tatooine, but also say, hey, I'm going to push it further. But again, maybe that's a season 2 thing. Because I think obviously we've seen Tatooine throughout the movies, the shows thus far. It's like, okay, I'm tired of sand. I'm like Anakin. Sand's irritating. Let's move on.
Yeah, For me, I'm kind of like in between on both of you on this one. Like I can see where you're coming from, Milton. I think let's see. So we had 7 episodes. I think at least 3 of the episodes we should have went off planet, and not including Din. So I think we should have done that for sure, just to also change up the color palette and just the taste of the show. Because being in the sands of Tatooine for so long, it definitely is a bit much. But on the flip side as well, like what you were talking about, Chris, like I think with the characters themselves. I think the issue you had, or the underlying issue with the characters, like the citizens, it just I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the Mos Espa just felt so small to me. Like it just felt really small. Like I think that's what got me the most when it comes to those expanding and fleshing out the citizens of Tatooine. And I think it also had to do with some of the cinematography, because there were so many tight shots when we were inside the city, so we weren't seeing too many like wide scoping, like what's going on with who type thing. So like it just felt like Mos Espa just felt so small to me, and that's kind of, you know, was a knock for me as well. It's like, well, if we're gonna hang around this city, like give us some more context. Like that was one of the most fun parts about Phantom Menace, like when they were walking through Mos Eisley, like Qui-Gon and the gang, you know, just you're seeing, I mean, there's so many shots of Qui-Gon like walking in the streets and stuff in that movie. And that's such a good good thing. I mean, and then again, it's hard to compare a $100 million movie to a show, but it just felt like there were so many tight shots, and that didn't, you know, and just smaller sets, and it just really didn't let the Tatooine citizens develop a little bit more of their characters.
Yeah,
that would have paid off. That would have paid off the finale.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and like I said, and Chris makes a good point. Like I think, because like I said, Mos Vespa, I didn't know what that was when we first started it, and obviously got to see that. And let's be real here, I'm sure there's other regions in Tatooine that are built in that nature. So it's nice to see that there are pockets of Tatooine, and obviously we got to see more of the underworld from like the different like captains, quote unquote, like that were at that table scene with him. So it was cool to see that. And like I said, Chris is right. Like seeing that's a good thing for sure.
Yeah, I want to send a shout out to the guy in the chat room. He's saying Shrug Knuckles Fist Bump is the username. He's saying Outer Rim. I was like, yeah, let's travel around the Outer Rim a little bit, because we know so much about, you know, from different books and different things. Outer Rim is full of the scoundrels and the bounty hunters and the assassins and the mercenaries. Like, let's get a visual check on what planets make up the Outer Rim in live action. I think that would be pretty cool.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was just talking about Phantom Menace. You have the Queen's Guard, what Captain Typho, he literally said, he's like, the Hudson gangsters are out there, blah 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 blah, like talking about Tatooine. So like, you know, we should have seen more of the Outer Rim just to get more of a feel to it. And you know, forget Tatooine. Like I said, instead of staying on Tatooine for so long, give us three or four episodes going to these Outer Rim planets out there, and it would kind of maybe given us a little bit more of a scope of what's going on with the greater Republic and growing threats of the First Order.
And that's the thing. Like, so that's what I wanted, because like I wanted to see what the quote unquote New Republic is all about. You know, how is that New Republic growing? How's it handling? You know, now that the Empire is somewhat in flux, because they're not completely gone yet, or they're on the verge, but like they're in flux. How are they handling like that transition, even dealing with the underground and all that type of stuff? But also too, I guess a good thing I forgot to mention, I know the episode with Mando where he goes to find the armor. That particular space planet or whatever, what was it called? Do we know?
No, we do not know.
That was cool to see. It's like a crescent moon type planet or something.
It was basically like a halo, yeah.
Yeah, that was dope. I wanted more of that scene too. In the sense of like more of that visual of what Star Wars is all about as well.
Yeah, and another thing I will say about while we're talking about the characters, just talking about the villains too. I feel like we had literally gotten one episode where we actually understood the significance of what the Pikes were representing. It was that last shot of the penultimate episode, episode 6, when they blow up the sanctuary. From that moment on, I was like, well, they should have showed that in like the first like 3 episodes that happening, because it's like at this point we're kind of like, well, these guys are a joke. Like they're just these mask-wearing fools that we've seen Boba Fett take out already. We've seen them in Solo getting owned by Kira and all those other people. So it's like, why were you exactly afraid of these people? And then they finally show us at the end that it's like, oh, okay. So I feel like they needed to do a little bit more work with building up them to making us like kind of be like, oh no, what's gonna happen with Boba Fett because these guys are trying to take control, and go hand in hand with that, the whole idea behind Spice. Yes, we've seen Spice visually on a couple occasions, but we never really seen the ramifications of what happens when Spice goes to the general audience or the general masses of Tatooine. Like, what does that do to the people? How do they die? Because Boba Fett says people are dying because of Spice. Well, how are they dying because of Spice? It's very nebulous. Are they getting shot and killed fighting over Spice? Is Spice like something you could overdose on? Like, what is happening? And why does Boba Fett care so much about the Spice? Like, I feel like that was a huge element that was missing.
I mean, maybe the Spice is like, the equivalent of like heroin or like crack or something when it comes to like our stuff. So I don't know if Star Wars would want to show someone overdosing. Like, that'd be kind of like weird.
Sure, I guess that makes sense.
I mean, technically, maybe Boba had an addiction to it or something, and he just wants to bring the anti-drug program. Because the thing is, didn't he? I could be retconning Mando season 2, but I swear, didn't he say when he was taking off, when the Dark Troopers take Grogu, doesn't he say this isn't? I'm pretty sure he says the word spice. Something about
a spice stream.
I feel like, yeah, he said Boba mentions the word spice in Mando season 2. So who knows? Maybe he used spice before.
Maybe he was just a casual user of the spice. Just saying.
But it would have been nice to actually get more backstory if that was the case.
Hey man, it was a coping skill. It was a coping skill all those years being out in the desert. You got to figure something out.
Man, that's some intense rehab with the Tuskens. Yeah, I think though, with the whole issue with the Pikes, it's just like you said, Chris, we didn't really have a reason to fear them throughout the series until basically the penultimate episode. But that also brings in another issue, I feel like, with the series. So you're going to have Cad Bane as the bouncer, which is totally fine. But if you're going to do that, make him feel like he is the villain of the series. Make him come in the second episode of the season, and maybe take out a couple of those mod biker gang people. Do that just to send a message, and then have him pop up. He doesn't even have to be in 6 out of 7 episodes. Make him be in like episode 2, 4, and then like 6 and 7. But I feel like, we finally, when Cad showed up, that's when I was worried about, of course, as you said, Chris, like them sending a message, blowing up the sanctuary, that's sending a message. And that did make us feel like, oh, wow, there's something. But when Cad shows up, it's like, okay, now they mean business because they have Cad Bane on their side. Like that, now they mean something. Now they're a threat. But the way the show did it, Cad Bane was brought in basically just to get killed off as the Pikes bouncer when he really didn't deserve it, because he really didn't earn his death or earn that scene with Boba within the series. Like, it wasn't earned whatsoever. Like, forget that it's Cad Bane. It could have been any character Boba killed, and it would have been the same effect for us as an audience, minus saying, oh, cool, Cad Bane, or now complaining Cad Bane's potentially dead.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Ben, because earned. I don't think the death was earned. I have a ton of people in my comment section of that video, is he dead or not? And they're like, oh, that was good. We don't need him to be alive. I'm like, you need him to be alive now, because first off, they had that lingering shot for way longer than it should have been if he's just dead. And
let's be real, he's probably alive.
Yeah. But that being said, it's like exactly what you said. If it was anybody else, just take his name out of the equation. It's just a villain of the week. Like, he shows up in the end of the episode, then shows up in the next episode, is dead. Okay, cool. He's got a cool appearance, but other than that, it's just like, what's his backstory? What's he doing here? What's his story? There's no story whatsoever. And in fact, the worst part is he makes references to events we've never even seen. Since when has Boba Fett been trained by Cad Bane in the first place?
Well, that I'll let you jump in here real quick, Milton. I'm just gonna make a quick point, but so like the thing is with Cad, I've had a lot of good things to say about like John and Dave, including everybody through Mando season 1, Mando season 2, even through up until this point in Book of Boba season 1. But this is a point where I think they got completely wrong, because you introduce Cad Bane, and if you're watching this as someone who doesn't know who he is, you're like, who is this? What, just some random villain? Like, why is it important? And for us as an audience, of course, we're like, oh, cool, Cad Bane. But for the general viewer, like you said, Chris, it's, oh, hero or villain of the week. And that's a point where I feel like John and Dave and Robert Rodriguez misstepped here, because they kind of stepped too deep into the really hardcore Star Wars side of things, like to lean into the outside things that are not in this series. And they should have been building this throughout the entire thing from episodes 1 or 2 or 3.
I agree with that. Like, I can't even argue that. Like, Cad Bane, and that's the thing, though, because, like, Cad Bane is one of those characters that's beloved. He's my favorite bounty hunter. I think I've been very clear about that. I love him because he's consistently consistent. Nothing has changed about him since the Clone Wars till now. And for you to sit there and bring a Clone Wars character in and just waste him like that don't make any sense. So there's no way he's dead. And I think he was used poorly. It was great to see him. And I take that back. I wouldn't say he was used poorly. He was not used enough. And he should have been the penultimate villain, at least penultimate B villain of this series. Because you could have made it personal between him and Boba, and then overall Boba's mission was to take out the Pikes and get control of his region of Tatooine.
And this is what I was gonna say. Go ahead, Ben.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say real quick. Like, I just think with him as well, I didn't even like the decision for Boba to kill him. Like, not for like selfish reasons of not killing Cad Bane. We have this whole series of Boba, basically being a nice guy to rough people, basically. Like, he played nice to the gangsters, he played nice to everybody, and then you get to a guy who's presumably he's potentially been close with when he was younger, over the years, etc., or at least respected as another bounty hunter, and then you're like, nah, we're just going to throw away all of this potential character development for Boba of him, like, giving pretty much the nice angle to now we're going to kill you. Now we're going to kill you. Like, see, like, to me, that's like the whole it falls back on the thing of like, oh, you basically bring in a character to kill them. Like, why not, instead of Cobb Vanth, why not have that be Cad Bane in the bacta tank, and Boba, like, giving him a second chance type deal? Like, that's an issue I have with the series, because Boba was basically being made to not be a killer, and then in the end he goes back to his roots of being he kills he kills a guy. So, like, I don't know, it was kind of weird for me how they did it, and it was just the classic. It's hard to nitpick on things like this because it's tropes in every single movie or show, but like, if Cad Bane really wanted to kill Boba, as soon as Boba took off his helmet, he should have shot him in the face and been done with it. Like, so, like, that's the thing. Like, it's too tropey for me. And then, you're just kind of doubling back on what Boba's character has been growing throughout this whole series. And then you're like, nah, we're going to just kill you anyways.
Yeah, I think what Milton was getting on a few minutes there with was the fact that there wasn't much of a hook in these episodes. Yeah. And if you would have put Cad Bane as a B plot or something, put him at the end of episode 2, put him at the end or at the beginning of episode 3, whatever, earlier in the season, we would have had more talking points. Okay, what's gonna happen with Cad Bane? What's gonna happen? Is he gonna get killed? Is he gonna end up fighting with Boba Fett? Like, there's so much cooler stuff that could have been speculated and kept people even more engaged and more excited and getting more people on board to watch the series. So yeah, I mean, it could have been a two-pronged approach. Not only would you have increased the coolness of Cad Bane, but you would have gotten even a stronger hold in the story going weeks to week in the future.
Agreed. Agreed.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I mean, heck, this is a really long shot, or wish they would have happened. Maybe instead of all this stuff with Cad and Boba and Mando, if you're gonna get Mando involved in this series, even why not just have let's let Cad Bane go back to his roots of basically taking out Jedi or disarming Jedi. Have him go steal Grogu from Luke, and maybe Mando come to Boba and be like, "Hey, I need your help." This bounty hunter, boom, connect him with Cad Bane. Like just something like I don't know. I feel like his character was so underused for what happened with him, and it's disappointing as well because they did his character so well visually. Like they nailed the look of Cad Bane, and then you kill him.
Oh man, I mean that's all the negative stuff that I want to talk about. Things that maybe made the season a little bit more desirable in some aspects. Anything left for you guys to talk about? Any talking points?
I mean, there's some negative, and like I said, I don't want to kill the show because it wasn't bad. It wasn't trash. Because for anyone out there saying that it was trash, you're being stupid. Like it just was up and down writing. Like I think the problem that we had, especially with the first 4 episodes, was it was a roller coaster. It was weird writing. It was weird directing. I think Ben, you said it. You're just over Robert's directing.
Yep, I'm done.
And I think it was episodes 2 and 4. We were loving them, and I think 1 and 3 were just like, it's like you like that old phrase, you take me out of a show or take me out of a movie. Episode 1 and 3 took me out of the show. It's like, what are we doing here? So it's like, I would say that was probably for me one of the negative gripes of the show. But again, I'm not going to kill it. It wasn't a terrible show. Hopefully they can improve it. If we get a season 2, they can improve it and say, let's get it consistent.
Yeah, it's only going to get better. I can't see how they would see this and somehow go in another direction. But I get it, man. I had the same feeling watching one of those Bad Batch episodes a couple of the weeks we watched. It's like, oh, I thought like live action was immune to this sort of thing. I thought like live action every episode would be like hammering hard, and it's like, well, that now we got to go forward thinking, there's a possibility live action might not have a great episode every once in a while.
And I've said this before. In a mini series like this, 6 episodes or 7, you can't waste episodes. You can't. Like it makes no sense to put in filler or do weirdo plots. Like that's why, and again, Arrowverse. That's why season 8 was actually really good because there's only 10 episodes. Every episode meant something except for one of those crossovers for the Crisis. They were kind of, but episodes, 9 or whatever it was, were fire. They all made sense for a reason. You cannot waste an episode for a miniseries. You don't have time for that. If this was 16 episodes, okay, you get 1 or 2 or 3 episodes like that. Not in a miniseries. That's why for Obi-Wan I have a lot of hopes for it because I feel like they're not going to waste anything in those 6 or 8 episodes they're shooting or that they have shot.
Okay. Can we just say real quick, why the heck have we not gotten an episode count for Obi-Wan yet?
What was it? I thought it was 6
I'm
episodes.
so tired of it.
6. Is it
I'm pretty sure, but
Lucasfilm
has never said it.
Well, which is goofy, right? We already know. We already know Lucas is on their bullshit sometimes with their whole like hiding stuff. Stop hiding stuff. We're gonna find out anyway. So stop playing.
Oh man. And I'm gonna throw it over to you, Ben. Anybody? Otherwise, we're gonna get into our final scores. A score out of 10 for season 1 of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah. I would say overall, like Milton said, the series isn't trash. It's but it's not amazing either. It had some ups and downs. It was a roller coaster. As I've mentioned before, I'm good. I don't need to see any more Robert Rodriguez directed Star Wars stuff. Or if it is directed, I hope it improves at that. But overall, the series had some ups and downs, had some slow points. That's for sure. I felt like there was a little bit too much flashback early on, or like too much flashback in terms of time in the episode. Like 80% of the episode being flashback, I think was a mistake for some of them. But overall, we had some good moments. Obviously, some of the iconic moments I mentioned earlier, like Boba coming out of the Sarlacc. You got Luke, you got Grogu, you got the action at the end of the series. The shot of Boba sitting on top of the Rancor, I think, is an amazing shot. Like I didn't love the finale, but I feel like that shot was like poster-esque. Like that's something you'd see in a comic book or on a poster. I thought was great. And then, I felt like his character was done okay. Like I obviously we discussed, his character developing, but overall his character I think was powered down, which is a negative overall for his character development because it feels like a totally different character from Mando season 2, just to be real. Because I mean, just a quick aside on that, like if Boba's changed, quote unquote, changed like he has, how do you have him in Mando season 2? The first time he introduces himself to Din, he's like, "Hey, got my sniper friend ready to shoot your kid over there." Like that's not the Boba we got in this series at all. So it just makes me wonder what happened in the writing from that to this and to how we got to that point. But overall, thought the series was fine. I did like to see. I really did enjoy seeing Mando and Grogu reuniting, even though I'm kind of 50-50 on it, but I'm more maybe 51-49 because it's kind of symbolic how they met in battle again. And of course, everybody just loves Grogu. Like you can't not love Grogu. And then of course, Luke was amazing. But overall for me, I think the series was just fine. And I would have to give the series a solid 7 out of 10.
All right. Yeah, I know you gave it some really, really high scores, but then some really, really low scores. So I feel like a 7 out of 10 would seem kind of fitting. And without going too far with my review, I'm also giving it a 7 out of 10. And I've given that a couple weeks last week when I reviewed the series, and I feel like that's a good number for me because I still feel like that pretty much, it was good overall. Could have been amazing. But there's just a lot of things that, for me, could have been done better. The pacing could have been done better. Motivations of Boba Fett could have been a little stronger. Villains could have been buffed up a little bit more. There could have been more hooks between the episodes. But with that being said, a lot of iconic moments, seeing the Slave One again, seeing the Rancor, seeing Boba Fett being brought up by the Tuskens in like a story we would think we would get from like the Legends universe, seeing it on the screen happening, him coming out of the Sarlacc pit and this whole battle with these different people. Black Chrysanthemum, a comic book character coming to live action for the first time. So many really cool moments to talk about, and it was really fun overall as a content creator to really see some of the videos I post start to take off. I mean, whether or not this is my favorite series ever, I respect and enjoy the fact that people actually were liking to talk about it in the comment sections, going back and forth with one another. Just a lot of fun discussion all around, just everywhere, just not even YouTube, but just Twitter and everything else. So I got to give it that to them. And Milton, what's your final verdict on the Book of Boba Fett, man?
Yeah, I'll just keep it real and keep it simple. So again, this show wasn't trash. I just want to be very clear. It was up and down for me. It was very much a roller coaster, and I think for me, it gave me a lot of flashbacks to how Bad Batch was, in the sense of we go 1 step or 5 steps forward, 3 steps back. Obviously those first 4 episodes, and we have episodes 4 and 5 that was really just escalating everything, and then 7 happens. Character development wise, Fennec was awesome. She was probably the most consistent character throughout this whole show, without question. It was cool to see Black Chrysanthemum, first time in live action. The Hutt twins were dope. Obviously seeing, the criminal element of Tatooine and seeing how that was branched out. I love seeing that. Again, as I mentioned before, my negatives are there. So overall, I would say this show for me is a 6.75.
6.75. So pretty much fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what though? Here's the thing. And I say that because the show to me isn't, honestly, it's not rewatchable. I'll watch it again eventually, but I'm not hyped to say, let me go put on Boba. Like, I can go back and put on Mando 1 and 2.
Well, Milton, that's the thing with the show, or with this show. That's actually a very good point we hadn't brought up to this point in the show. I don't think this show is very watchable unless you tune into the Mando and Luke episode. That's cool. Maybe the finale for a little bit of action. But for me, I can randomly. I mean, a few weeks ago, I just turned on The Mandalorian season 1 and just let it play in the background, and I can sit down and watch Mando and not even have any to me. Mando season 1 and season 2, it is rewatchable as any of the Star Wars movies we've gotten to this point out of all of them.
I agree. And here's the thing: I actually went back and you guys are gonna probably be surprised when you hear this. I went back and rewatched some of the Visions episodes, Star Wars Visions. Yeah. I watched the Twins episode and the Jedi. Which is the one? Is that the one with the samurai one?
The Ninth Jedi? Oh wait, the Duel.
The Duel, yeah. I rewatched those because I love those 2 particular episodes, and even the kid one who looked like Mega Man, the robot Jedi. Like, dude, that show is still watchable for me. Like, if you get me to rewatch it more than once, you got me hooked. And I think with random fans that aren't Star Wars heavy, you need them to go back and want to rewatch this stuff. I think this show doesn't help.
Yeah. So there's our thoughts on the Book of Boba Fett, but we're not closing this book just yet because we're going to be talking about the Book of Boba Fett for a certain amount of time in the future. And I would say at least until Mandalorian Season 3 at the end of this year, hopefully. So stay tuned for more on that. As I didn't mention off the top of the show, if you're watching us live on YouTube every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern, you can also listen to us on the car rides around wherever you go, grocery store, you can shop around, go to the gym, anywhere really. We're on all those streaming podcast platforms, Apple, Google, etc. We also have a store where you can buy t-shirts at teespring.com. Search our name, Outer Rim Transmission, in both podcast form and on that website for the t-shirts to get those. All right, so we're going to get into our first big story here. The Old Republic got a cinematic, and this is something I definitely didn't expect to promote the latest expansion, Legacy of the Sith. I'm going to throw it over to Milton because I know you've been chomping at the bit to talk about this one, man. What was your first reactions to this?
Fire. Like, this episode this trailer was so good. Darth Malgus, like, I'm not even kidding you. Literally, I thought about this. I was at the gym. When did this come out? Was it Wednesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday? Okay. Tuesday. So I get up in the morning around 3:50 to go to the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning throughout the week. Okay, except for today.
Wow.
So you sent that to us the day before, or that day or whatever it was. I watched it at the gym. Literally was like losing my mind while I was doing cardio, because I'm thinking to myself, if Disney executive wants someone to play that character of Darth Malgus, sign me up, because I'm playing that character, because he's so good. He is so badass. I love how he manipulated. I forget what the young Jedi's name, but how he said, "You know what you destroyed," and he's like, that machine pretty much points out Jedi kids that are sensitive that the Jedi don't want, pretty much. And I'm like, what? I mean, just that for 6 minutes of storytelling was like, didn't even realize that even existed. I have to go back and rewatch this again, but that you can tell the pain, the creative. I can't even describe how good it was. Like, the pain of those characters were real to me, especially that Jedi, when you realize it was her sibling that they took her away from. Isn't that crazy? Because I had no idea that was a sibling until the end. Like, how dope was that twist on it? And it's like, and he's like, when we're ready to break free, come find me. And I'm like, son, I want to be a Sith. Because he's like, listen, like, the Jedi be bullshitting.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Malgus is not even a Sith anymore. So he has left the Sith crazy, and the Republic and the Jedi.
Listen, man, it's listen, Disney, Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, I'm in hella shape now. Let me play Darth Malgus, okay? If you need me to get painted white and shave my head completely, let's do it. Like, I got you. That character is so dope to me. Like, I think he's in my top 5 when it comes to, I guess, evil Force users, if he's not really a Sith anymore, but he's so dope. We need him in a movie. We need him in a movie, or a live action series, and I said that in our message that this needs to be a movie of a trilogy or at least a 4-season streaming series because we need more of this. That 6 minutes, and I'm gonna say it, is better than the sequel trilogy.
Oh,
I'm gonna be real.
Well,
First, again, I'm gonna say all the cinematics of the Old Republic, put them all together, and that's what, maybe 30 minutes of cinematics.
Yeah.
Better than the sequel trilogy. And no one, and then Milton, you messed up for saying that. I don't even care. Like I'll argue anybody on that because you're telling me the storytelling with 3 high-budget movies do not hold up to 30 minutes of cinematic trailers of characters that have never been in live action yet. The overall story's better.
You nailed it completely, Milton. Actually, with all of your points there. So, not to we can't just include the sequels here. So, here's the thing. Every point you made about Malgus, about what's the girl's name, Sahara or something?
Sahara, yes, yeah.
Sahara. Okay, Sahara. Okay, so for example, talking about rewatchability, I watched that thing probably like 5 times this week. Like I just turned it on our 4K TV, out in our living room and just let it play, and it's like, man, this holds up so good,
good.
And Malgus is amazing. Sahara's great. The emotion to the trailer or the cinematic is done so well. Other than here's another hot take. Think about it this way: other than Mando and Grogu reuniting in Boba, that was more emotional and story driven than the entire season of Book of Boba Fett completely, in my opinion. And then if you talk about the sequel trilogy, not to like dive too far into that tidal wave, but when it comes to that, even like a lot of the character developments that we got in the sequels, it really wasn't, or their journeys weren't earned, I feel like, or they were rushed or they played it safe. And what we got in just that one cinematic alone, there was more, I feel like, emotion for the characters and just story than we got in the sequels. And it just makes you wonder, like, of course, like for big movies, you have to kind of play it safe. You have to play to the audience. But why can't you give us something so story-driven and emotional-driven? Because I guarantee you, reshoot that cinematic in live action, release that exact same thing, 6-minute footage, release it to the public and be like, hey, do you want this to be anything, a movie or show? And everybody would give it a resounding yes, because it was amazing. And the thing is, when have we gotten that much emotion in the sequels? To me, maybe when Ben, I feel like, turns back to the good side in Rise of Skywalker. I feel like that was done pretty well for the most part. And then, some of the little things like Han saying, hey, we're home, all that sort of jazz. But other than a couple little moments like that in the sequels, this is right there with anything they've made emotionally under the Disney umbrella in terms of emotion and feel and story. And this cinematic, it just makes me, like, the thing is with something like this and with Star Wars as a whole, like, Star Wars should make you want to, like, talk about Star Wars to somebody. And to me, when this came out, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to talk to the guys about it. Got to talk to my best friend. Got to talk to my cousin about it, because it was done so well. And like the Book of Boba, for example, was just kind of like, okay.
Well, yeah, because listen, so tomorrow is my little sister's gender reveal party for her baby, okay? And my brother and I are going to be there with our family members. I guarantee you, me and him are going to be talking about this while they're revealing the baby's gender, okay? Now, let's look, I already know the gender, so I'll be like, whatever, I'm just here to be support. But we're going to talk Star Wars. I guarantee you that. And this cinematic, and what's crazy about it, Ben, you bring up a good point about the sequel trilogy and the emotions. Rey was taken away from, her parents left her on Jakku, okay? We got a similar scene like that where the kid is taken away from, I thought it was a parent at first, and it's the sibling. And we got, and that felt so good. The payoff was perfect because you see Sahara get to the machine, about to get the holocron, and then Malgus just starts talking. And then they show those flashbacks of what the real perspective was. And I'm like, man, like that's well done. Like, I'm getting goosebumps right now. You can't even see it. Like, it's crazy how that.
You just saying that makes me want to watch the trailer right now.
That's what I'm saying. Like the payoff was perfect. And it's like, wait a minute, you really did a good job at making the audience think this was a good thing what the kid did to use the Force, and then it's like, wait a minute, like we didn't get to see the whole perspective, and then when you see the brother or sister get pissed off and use the Force, it's like, man, you really abandoned that kid. Like, come on, like how messed up are the Jedi? Like that makes me not think like the Jedi are really good people at all.
And that's the
Like,
key point, right? This
yeah,
had something to say that has not really been focused on with any of the on-screen material. Maybe in some of the
yeah,
comics, maybe in some of the novels. But to actually see this front, face, and center about, hey, maybe the Jedi aren't so good for taking kids away from their families at the young
yeah,
age and not having a say about it. And Malgus is
facts.
basically saying, like, hey, look, what's happening with all these other kids? Are you sure? And he's like manipulating her. And it's just
Yeah,
like that quickness and that kind of attention to detail in so many few lines of dialogue because they only have 6 minutes to tell a story. It felt like it was a 20-minute story,
facts.
but it was six
And here's the thing.
minutes.
And here's the thing. I kid you not, they did a good job at making me want to side with Malgus on it. I'm like, he ain't wrong, because
Yeah.
again, if this machine's identifying kids that are just being discarded, and they're being ripped from their homes and breaking up families, how positive is that to be a Jedi? Like, come
Hmm.
on, Malgus. Okay,
Yeah.
Malgus is saying, listen, they're just as screwed up as we are. We're just being real about it when we do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the best part of a sign of a good villain. Just because, look, I mean, you have Malgus, like you said, you felt like you're like, okay, I can see where you're coming from, and you're making a pretty good point here. Like even I think that's what makes like Thanos so good in Avengers, because he is, of course, crazy if we want to like wipe out half the universe's population. But if you look at it, like he has a point with some of his points he's making about why he's doing it. So like the thing is, when you have a villain like that making good, really good, solid points versus just like doing the whole Joker thing of running around making chaos, like that is way more impactful of a villain than any other just random like video game villain you could throw in this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is great because I'm the one who actually plays this freaking game, and I'm sitting here enjoying you guys just talk about it because it's the power of it is like this universe that they built up in the Old Republic is so darn fascinating for any fan to just talk about it. It says a lot about the era, says a
yeah.
lot about the character of Darth Malgus and all that. So that's pretty cool. I got to give credit where credit is due here. The trailer is called Disorder. And I don't know if you guys do this, but this is put together by ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, put together. And that's significant because all the previous Old Republic trailer cinematics were done by Blur Studios.
Yep.
So this is ILM's first crack at doing an Old Republic cinematic. And I don't know if you guys knew that, but I mean, for me, it seemed like I couldn't tell a difference. I feel like they captured the essence of what the other
Yeah.
stories told, even going up to like the flashback or the slow motion, like Matrix-esque moves at certain points of this. Like, it was something that Blur Studio did a lot with their trailers. So I thought they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I actually went back and rewatched the first cinematic that they did, where when Satele and her master fight Malgus and his
Yeah.
master,
Yeah.
which again that still holds up. It's so good, and we got that Han Solo type character with the cowboy hat,
Yeah.
which was fire. Um, yeah, look, man, they can make a full feature movie. Let's come on, call it what it is. Like Lucasfilm, stop playing. I guarantee you make a 2-hour film like this, we're watching it.
Oh,
Like we're watching it.
100%.
Like
Oh,
I'll go watch this in
100%.
theater. Like listen, and I'll go watch. Look, I saw Clone Wars in theaters. I saw Sonic the Hedgehog in theater. I'll go see an animated feature in theater as long as you make sure it's good and it looks like this and there's character development. You got me hooked, man. It's Star Wars.
Yeah. Or we could just do give us an 8-episode live action series with it. Like, get a series going. To me, I think that's one of the, I was talking about to one of my friends this week. One of the most meta, I think, issues with Star Wars as a whole is we're sticking around this era of 1 through 9. And like, why not go back these thousands of years or whatever? Why not go back like that far and make a series about
Yes.
these characters? Because with the series, look at Game of Thrones, how good characters paid off in the long run. Like, if you develop a series with these characters, with this type of emotion and storytelling that happened in this little 5-6 minute trailer, like, why not extrapolate that out to a full 8-hour series? And that would be incredible in my opinion. Like, heck, we've talked about Malgus, we've talked about Sahara, the Jedi Master, I don't remember his name, but he even had good emotion too, of like, oh crap, I just got busted here, like, type deal. Like, they nailed it so perfectly. Like, to me, it got me so hyped for this, and I don't even play that game. Like that's the best part about Star Wars, is it gets you talking to people, and you're not even playing these games, you're just so hyped about it. And like, why not extrapolate this out to a series or something?
I agree. Yeah. And there are characters in this universe that, I mean, again, Bastila, Satele, Revan, obviously Malgus, like there's characters there that we can fall in love, just like we fell in love with Luke, Han, and Leia, and Darth Vader, and Palpatine. Like, you can build them up. You're right. Go back. This takes place, what? Maybe 1,000 years before?
About 4,000, I think. They said
what was it?
3,000 or 4,000 years, something like that.
Yeah. So again,
perfect.
You separate. Go back 2,000, 3,000, and do this series. Do 6 movies of this era. I guarantee you will have fans loving those characters like they love our characters now. Because, like, Satele and Bastila, that's why I've always said, when all the people saying, oh, no one, people get mad because Rey's the lead character, that's BS. Satele is fire. Bastila is fire. Ahsoka is dope. Like, we like female characters in Star Wars. Just make them nice. Like, and they're video game characters that haven't even been in the movie yet, and we love them.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the big thing, in my opinion, that gets obnoxious with a lot of the online discourse when it comes to Star Wars, is like, they're like, well, not to put words in people's mouths, but it's just, you see people posting it, so it's just more truthful. But you see a lot of people say, well, people didn't like Rey because it's a female lead. She's a female lead. No, a lot of people just didn't enjoy her story arc. And for me, like this trailer, like, not to turn this into an anti-sequel discussion, but like, this trailer made me more emotionally worried about Sahara than I was ever with Rey, honestly. Yeah. And that's not even just hot taking it. That's just like thinking about it. It's like, it's true. It's true. It really is. And like you said, you have so many characters. You have Bastila, Steel, this is Sahara character. You have all these different characters that you could work with. And, like you said, Milton, we like female leads, like Ahsoka. Rosario Dawson's amazing as Ahsoka. Ashley played her perfectly. You have the OG Leia. I think that's something people, that's a totally different discussion, but that's something people forget about, is like, we talk about people not liking female leads in Star Wars, but we all love Leia. Like, that's universally accepted. We all love Leia. So like, to me, I just think as long as you create good characters, that's all people care about. Like Dave, with this one cinematic they've created, or they're using such good character development with Sahara, with the Jedi Master, and with how manipulative Malgus is. Like, it just, good characters. As long as you have good characters, the people will come, and good stories.
Well, so right now I'm looking up some of the Old Republic characters, okay? And just so off my head. So you have Revan, who's the lead of the first game of Knights of the Old Republic. You have, I think, the couple of the droids with it, T3, M4. I don't know if you guys remember that character.
Yeah, Astromech droid.
K-47, yep. And then so in the next game, the Knights of the Republic, it's Karth Ansanzi, I think how you say it. Bastila, San, Jolie, Bendo. He was like that bald-headed Jedi. Again, you can, and then some even the villains. You had Darth Malak. People forget about him. Darth Sion, Darth Nihilus. I think how you say it. He wore that mask with the white stripes on it. Like, you got characters that we can attach onto. And again, Lucas, Disney, if you want to hire me to be a Sith Lord of that era, sign me up. I'll shave my beard, shave my head completely, and I'll do what you want me to do.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh man. So tying in, yeah. So amazing cinematic, and it comes out just in time because literally the day this came out, that's when the Legacy of the Sith expansion came out. It's a 7.0. This is the sixth expansion of the Old Republic, and while I'll give you guys a quick little review because spoiler alert, I've beat the game already. Basically. So the story is really strange, really strange. So I've been playing this game since the beta, and this is by far the expansion that has had the least amount of content. It has had some good content, but the content that I care most about, arguably most people do, is the story. And it's interesting how they frame the story because it's like they introduce you to a previous plot thread involving Mandalorians and different Mandalorians infighting, and they're like, oh yeah, that's going on. Nothing happens with you involved with that story. Then they mention, oh, something about Malgus. It's like, oh, we're not going to worry about that. It's like, wait, what? He's on the cover and he's in a cinematic. What do you mean we're not worrying about that yet? Like, he's the face of this expansion. What's going on here? And then, so that ends. That conversation ends. Then out of the blue, you launch into the actual thing, and it's like this conflict on Manan, which comes out of nowhere. And Manan, some of you might know, is from the original Knights of the Old Republic. It's the water planet that has the Selkath and the Fraction Shark where you go underwater and you deal with the Kolto and all that. So that has bubbled up to the surface again as far as the conflict between the Republic and the Empire. Both have interest in Kolto, which is basically the precursor to Bacta. It's very important for the war effort. So you're fighting over the Kolto, but there's really not. You're fighting with this one Jedi Padawan. His name's Arn. He's a cybernetic Jedi Knight. He just became knighted. And, you're just basically fighting over this, like, a couple missions on Manan. It looks fine. There's a lot of fire. There's a lot of rain and a lot of water. But it's very linear. There's not really any, like, open world area. You're just kind of fighting through, like, mobs of enemies. And it takes about less... If you're really good at this, it takes you less than 2 hours to beat the story. Literally less than 2 hours. And it's like, oh, well... That's the story, and then they're like, oh wait, but there's a flashpoint, which is basically their idea of a little dungeon that you could do with 3 other people. They have a story mode; you could just do it by yourself to just get the story. So you go through that, and that's when Malgus shows up for all of 5 minutes, and you fight him in a boss battle. And I don't know if I want to say too much more at this point.
No, you can because I'm not going to play it.
Spoiler.
He probably gets whacked, I bet.
Spoiler alert for anybody that has any interest in playing this game. So no, he doesn't die. So what happens is you find him at the same location that is happening in the cinematic, which is pretty neat. Like you're like, oh, Malchus is up to something. We got evidence that he's on this Sith planet called Elam. We go there, and as we hear all this commotion, which is the commotion that's happening in the cinematic as we're approaching this temple structure from the outside, Malgus breaks out. Kind of like the inverse shot of you seeing him walking away in the cinematic. You see him coming through the doorway towards your player character, and you fight against him, and then you actually defeat him, and it only took me 2 tries. It's like an endgame boss, so I was like, okay, this is granted story mode, but I was like, I'm surprised that I was able to defeat Malgus in a matter of like a minute and a half. And then but this is the badass part because, first off, backing up, you can play Old Republic on the Sith or the Republic side. And depending on which side you play on, there's certain characters that you interact with, certain characters you have, relationships and stuff like that on either side. So the story is very much different on either way of the factions. So me playing as my commando gunnery guy with the big ass gun, I defeated Malgus, and he's on one knee. And then next thing you know, like you bring in all the Jedi come in. It's kind of weird how this happens. Like every known Jedi that you've met, like meets up at this point. And even though it's kind of weird how that can end up where everybody just magically appears when you need them, they all use the Force to put him like in Force prison kind of like thing where like they use the Force and you actually get to like incapacitate him. And then we get to see him put into like this like what was it from X-Men? You see Magneto going into like a jail cell, which is all plastic or something.
Like that glass chamber, that glass chamber or something.
So they put Malgus in that, and they're basically like, we've put Sith in here in the past and he'll never get out and all this stuff. So then meanwhile, like you're talking to Malgus through this thing, and as you're citing the significance of this discovery of this thing he has found. And when we see in a cinematic, he had that holocron in his hand as he's walking out. He takes it from the female Twi'lek, but as he's giving this like epilogue, if you will, of the expansion, it cuts back to that planet and it shows Sahara with that finding that holocron that was on the ground. I guess he must have dropped it when he was fighting your character or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he's saying about like this key is holding the future for existence. There's lots of fire and lots of different things that's like foreshadowing the future and all that. But so that's basically how the story ends for that. But I was just a little bit let down because it was like, hey, wait, like this character Malgus is like teased up here forever on the splash screen of the loading page, and we fight against him for 5 minutes, and that's it. And then it's like it kind of the storytelling in the game is just questionable how they're going about tackling multiple storylines. But yeah, so Malgus is in jail, he's in prison, and we don't know much about this character of Sahara. Now they do say, it's a living game, so obviously we're going to get updates and stuff like that. Some other stuff that happened in the game is I was showing you guys, there's this Galactic Seasons thing, which is another kind of tract of events or little activities you can do when you log in, whatever. And you get a character that looks like Cad Bane and Zell Kell or something I forget what his name is. But anyway, he's a Duros, and it's got a cool little story track dealing with like the Shadow organization, kind of like Crimson Dawn in the Old Republic. So that was pretty cool because you're like helping him out and getting information. They both work for the Republic and the Empire, this criminal syndicate and all this sort of thing. So that was cool. I'll talk about the good real quick. They have a feature in the game called combat styles. So before, when you first make a character, you have to pick, hey, do you want to be a Jedi who uses 2 lightsabers, or a smuggler, or a sniper, or somebody? And once you pick that thing, you have to stick with it. That's your character. You can't change weapons. You can't do anything like that. They have since added in with this combat styles, which will allow you to pick an additional class, I guess you can call it, so you can actually switch between 2 now. What a cool thing you could do also, because they have a dark side, light side thing like the original That's Our Republic. You could actually, let's say you want to start off as a good guy, as a light side Jedi. You could actually get dark side points from making, decisions or doing other activities that actually bump up your dark side points. When you get to dark side level 5 now, you could actually like pick a new class and become like a Sith. So you could effectively like be like role playing in the game and be like, yeah, I started off as this good guy and I made all these decisions, and it'll actually like show your face like actually like turning like really like evil looking with Sith eyes and everything. And then you could actually like choose like, I'm gonna be like a Darth Maul double bladed lightsaber shadow or whatever they're called, the assassins in the game. And you could do the same thing. I'm making a character which is basically modeled after Ben Solo on the Sith side. I'm gonna end up making one to transition to the light side. So all in all, basically the game had potential, and I feel like it came out half-baked because they had 2 months of a delay. This was originally supposed to come out in December, and I don't even want to think about what it would have been a bit like then, because just like Cyberpunk 2077, this game has a crap ton of bugs that are really not great, bugs that they had to actually turn off the servers multiple times in a matter of the 3 days it's been out to like fix the game, essentially. And like there's like some crazy bugs where like I have this like Bad Batch inspired helmet, and for some reason when my guy was talking at a cutscene, he sounded like I don't even want to try to impersonate what he sounded like, but there was a problem with the filter on the voice with that specific helmet where it made him like you could barely understand what he was saying. Like there, and at one point I was like walking. I wish I could have recorded it because it would have gone viral on Twitter. It really would have, because it sounded
who's the game
crazy.
maker for this?
BioWare.
Okay. See, like I'm kind of surprised, but like I don't know. It's weird to me. This is why I like just go back to LucasArts. Like, did you notice it said Lucasfilm Games on the beginning of the cinematic?
No, I didn't.
Yep.
Yeah, it said Lucasfilm Games.
Oh.
So go if that's the LucasArts, just make it that, because like I have no faith in the Star Wars video games. I've been burned by them since day one, like since they've taken over. Except I haven't played Fallen Order yet. I have it downstairs. Y'all tell me that's the only one that's good.
Wait, you have
But
it
like,
downstairs? Why are you waiting?
no, it's literally sitting on like on my like table because I just haven't played it yet. But I will though. I'll get to it. But like, it's the fact that that's the only game that's been good thus far, and they've
Yeah.
owned this intellectual property since what 2015. Like, come on. And then you can't even get a simple add-on right that's been delayed for what 2 months? You said. Like, come on, man. What are y'all doing? Like, that makes no sense to me. But whatever. It's goop. I don't get it. Like, go back and let LucasArts come back because all those guys were killing it.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing, though. This was the same studio that made the original Knights of the Old Republic. BioWare made that. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been years now. Like, they move in new developers leave. So I don't
Right.
really know how many original people, if any, are there that actually worked on the original game. Because a lot of these studios, like BioWare, for instance, have multiple studios. Like, the studio is called BioWare, but they have an outlet that works in, let's say, Canada. Another one at BioWare Austin. This studio is made to make this game. They have one somewhere else, right? So there's different outlets that they're doing this thing. So who knows? But long story short, before we move on here, it's like, yeah, it's in a day and age where we see a game like Cyberpunk 2077 come out, and they actually came out with an update this week, which was about a year and a half too late because they finally fixed the game apparently, or at least enough to make it really like something worth playing. But you watch that and see all the bugs and see the negative feedback, and it's like, guys, just delay the game. Just delay the game. If it's still not ready, just delay it another 2-3 months. Like, we'll play other games. There's other games to play all the time. It's not a big deal. Of course, I'm saying that they have to make money eventually, right? So they kind of have shareholders and stuff they have to listen to. So much they can only delay it so long. But yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed. They have some cool features in the game, but again, I'm still disappointed. I'll keep playing, but it's just like, okay, I'm just gonna wait for the next update. So
Again, like I said, the video games for Star Wars have been just god awful, except for the one. I know you guys are telling me that, but that's disappointing. Like, because again, you would think if BioWare is still someone in control of that particular game, like, you would think they'd have that on point. Now, again, now makes me kind of nervous when they do the reamp or the remake of it for an actual platform. Now, again, knocking on wood, I don't know if you hear that. I'm hoping for the best.
yeah. Something I'm also hoping for the best for is another video game, and that's Star Wars Hunters, because I mean, I've been kind of like mentioning this game every once in a while. So that's one of the only Star Wars games that's coming out anytime soon. It's that mobile/Switch game. A cool tie-in with the Old Republic is they are bringing a fan favorite mode from the PvP mode of the Old Republic, one of the PvP modes called Hut Ball. And Hut Ball is this over-the-top obstacle ninja warrior type course, but football-esque in nature, where you have 4 people versus 4 people. And it's like you have a ball and you have to get it to the goal line. But it's like combat enabled. So you're fighting like lightsabers against people. There's like different like stuff you can force push people off ledges. There's like fire that comes out of the ground. You can get people like force pushed in the fire or the acid. There's like different heights. So it's really fun. And they're actually like literally transplanting that game mode into the Star Wars Hunters, which I think is brilliant, because not only is it cool because it canonizes essentially like this popular game that was played back thousands of years ago, but I feel like the controls and the mechanics of this action game versus an RPG are going to lend itself even better than the Old Republic managed to make the game. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think this mode could be, if they pull it off right, this mode could be what actually gets people to actually play this game, because other than that, all they have is basically the game modes you would expect from any other popular shooter, like, oh, capture and hold this zone, or capture and hold over here, or kill this many people over here. Like, this actually is going to be something unique, which requires teamwork. And I hope I'm not talking too much good about this, because I feel like there's a lot of potential here. Haven't really seen it being played, but at least there's something that's unique coming to this game that I can actually start to get a little bit excited about. So.
Oh yeah.
I'm not interested.
I Yeah, I'm actually only excited for Star Wars Lego coming up. I can say well Milton, you and me, we can let Chris handle this part of the video gaming for us.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh man. Moving on though. What we have coming out with some of the series. Let's talk a little bit about Obi-Wan. And we have news that, and this is according to Variety, who I forget who broke the story first, but it's always great when Variety is able to get their stamp of approval on it, is that John Williams is going to be involved with creating some original music for Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Let's go. That's how it should be. Like listen, I don't think I have to expand it. It's John Williams. Like he's that dude. Like, I mean, he's fire. So Kenobi and John Williams make sense to me.
Oh yeah, I think with John Williams returning, it's awesome. I mean, he just turned 90 a few months ago, it's great seeing him still producing music for Star Wars, and I feel like it's poetic that he is getting involved in this series because he started off his thing with Star Wars with the Kenobi character and Luke and the Force and all that. Like, I just feel like it's a good good basically arc for his journey in Star Wars, like ending up back with Obi-Wan and Vader and all the characters he knew and loved back then. So like, I think it's a really good thing. It's got me hyped, and yeah, I can't wait to see what type of scores or new spins on certain scores we get for this series as well, because he's gonna draw up some scores for Anakin, and he's gonna draw up separate scores probably for Vader. It's gonna be, I think it's gonna be fire.
Yeah, this, like you said, it's a perfect poetic thing coming around full circle. And I honestly think that John Williams is going to be doing Star Wars music, or at least involved with music in general, until that unfortunate day when he passes away. Because how old is this guy? He's like at least 90 now, right?
He just turned 90 a couple months ago.
That's incredible, to be able to still mentally like forego like creating
James Earl Jones too.
James Earl Jones is 90?
I'm pretty sure he just turned 90 or like 89. He's really close to it.
Wow.
That was only like a month ago.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I mean, this is great. I want to see like some of this prequel blending of themes with the prequels and the original trilogy. Like, there's a lot of emphasis, a lot of great things that could happen out of this. And it just goes to show you, like, and Milton, right? He's an example. This is a lot of people's most anticipated Star Wars thing probably since The Force Awakens.
Yeah, in fact.
Oh, 100%.
Without question. And no, you're right. Able to say, I appreciate it. Like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, again, I think he's the Derek Jeter of Star Wars. He's clutch when he needs to be. He's consistent. He's a captain of this universe, and are captains the most popular? No, but he's steady. Whether it's from the prequels to the original trilogy, he's that character that we as little boys fell in love with, saying, hey, besides loving Luke and Han Solo, he was probably one of our first mentors, Obi-Wan Kenobi, as a young boy. Just saying, hey, he's that old guy who's showing those ways of the Force. He introduced us to the Force. I mean, he's our first teacher when it comes to Star Wars. So having this character return back is amazing. Having Ewan McGregor play him as a middle-aged man who's probably in his 50s at this point, like, as a character development, it's the perfect time to do it. It's a story that needs to be told. Solo, that movie didn't need to be told. This story needs to be told because we need to know what the hell was Obi-Wan doing on Tatooine. He had to have left Tatooine eventually for some reason, and we're going to see that. And we know Vader and him met up at least one more time prior to A New Hope.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I can't wait. I cannot wait to see that. I just love these characters. Hayden's back, dude. Can't wait to see him. And that's what's nice about this series. We're getting Hayden Christensen back because all the hate he got from the old head fans who didn't like him, now they're all on this D. They love him all of a sudden. You know what I'm saying? Like, I give it to him. He should get his props. He did a good job playing Anakin. Miss me with that hate.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong on any of your points you just made, Bill. Oh yeah, and James Earl Jones is actually 91. Fact check myself. Yeah, he just turned 91. But anyways,
Still kicking.
Yeah, he's still kicking. We're gonna get him in this series, and it's gonna be amazing. But as you said, Milton, with Kenobi, like his character has been done so well from the get go. Like like you said, he was the first mentor for everybody. I feel like his conversation with Luke in A New Hope is so good about, talking about the past Jedi and everything. Like it just, like Alec Guinness really, I mean, he got nominated. So, I guess he deserved it, but he really just killed it for that role and really left such a big impact. And that's what we're going to be getting in this series, presumably, with Ewan McGregor. And I can't wait to see as well. It's a point I feel like a lot of people haven't really discussed too much, is I can't wait to see. Now we're at a point, we're getting a blend most likely of Ewan's Obi-Wan and Alec's Obi-Wan in this series. And I'm very, very excited to see how they address that.
Yeah. Well, I know Ewan McGregor has been vocal about that. He's saying he's glad that he's back. One, because he loves the fans and he thinks this story's it's a great story. He loved being with Hayden, but he talked about that it's great that his Obi-Wan is now getting closer to Ewan McGregor, or excuse me, Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan. And it's perfect casting. I mean, you got to give props to George Lucas. Ewan McGregor is perfect casting for this, without any question. I mean, I can't envision another actor playing this role anymore. I just can't.
For me, he is Obi-Wan. I didn't know him as anything as anybody else. Whenever Ewan McGregor shows up in anything, I'm like, there's Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
He's more Obi-Wan to me than
God.
Sir Alec Guinness half the time, maybe.
Right.
Well, I don't know.
Like,
I don't know about you guys. Like, if you guys were watching the Super Bowl, what killed me was there's a commercial going around right now with Ewan McGregor doing a voiceover, and soon as he started talking, I like jerked to the TV. I was like, "Oh my gosh, is this going to be a Kenobi thing?" And it was like some advertisement. I'm like, "Oh man!" But
it was like for like a car, I think, or something. I saw the commercial.
Yeah, I was like, "Man, almost got it."
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I would say I'm excited for this. I think that this show is going to be very surprising. I think this show is going to, from episode 1 to episode 6, is going to be really good. I'd be shocked if this show is trash.
I think what's also going to be good about it, I think what's going to be also great about it is that it has one director. So Deborah Chow's going to be able to tell her vision all the way through it. Plus, the actor himself is an executive producer. Ewan McGregor is going to have say in like what happens, right?
Absolutely.
The fact that this guy has already played this character, knows like him inside and out, because he was been in his shoes many times. It's a great creative input when he's able to collaborate with the actual creators himself as being on the stage at the same time. Yeah,
and we all know that Ewan McGregor is going to take care of this character. He's going to say, listen, that's not what Obi-Wan does. He wouldn't say this. He wouldn't do that. And it's not like Mando or even Boba Fett, where like, yeah, we know the characters, but they weren't like beloved like Obi-Wan and Darth Vader and Anakin were. So they're going to be ultra sensitive about how they're going to rate these characters and portray them. There's no way you're going to depower Obi-Wan in a sense of like he's getting wrecked every episode. There's no way. No way.
No way.
You can't because Obi-Wan, Ben Kenobi wrecked Darth Maul in 3 moves. There's no way you depower him.
No way.
Yeah, I think we are for sure. I think we're for sure going to be heading in a really, really good direction with his character. Like, I just cannot wait to see his character. Like every time, this is the best part. Like we've talked about so many times. This is the best part about Star Wars. Sitting here talking with your friends, like speculating, having fun with it, and that's what's got me so hyped. Honestly, about Kenobi is talking with you guys, talking with other people. Because it feels like the general sense, like everybody's like, "Woo, we're on board right now. Let's get to it. Let's get to Kenobi and let's start like kicking ass every week because it's going to be a great show, I think."
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to whenever we do our episode about what we're gonna, our I guess our anticipation and
Yeah.
predictions. Once we get the trailers, I tell you right
Yep.
now, I guarantee you, Chris, you're gonna be like, oh, we got to do a video on the trailer just by itself. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
already know it's gonna happen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
2 hours for a 2-minute trailer.
There we
I'm cool
go.
with that.
Oh, us the Star Wars fans eat that stuff up, man. And the fact that we get it more and more is just such a blessing. But we have, believe it or not, just more stuff to talk about. And I could have spent even more time talking about these two topics, but I do want to get through the night here. So we have two different books that got announced. The first one was fittingly enough announced on Valentine's Day here. And this is The Princess and the Scoundrel. It's a brand new novel from Del Rey. And it's all about Leia and Han Solo, them getting married on Endor right after Return of the Jedi, and them having a honeymoon on the Halcyon. So this is written by Beth Revis. She also did Rebel Rising, the young adult novel about Jyn Erso and Rogue One. Love that book. She's a great writer. But here, I mean, I really wanted to freaking love this book until I read a certain passage in this, and this did go around from quite a few different friends of mine over on Twitter. And in the middle of explaining this, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, yes, it's so great that we're getting a Star Wars story that's not, a tie-in for a certain thing. It's just going to be a story on its own somewhere in a timeline. And then, well, I'll read exactly verbatim from the article.
I'm just watching Milton's reaction. So continue, Chris.
After a ceremony at the site of the victory celebration at the end of the film, newlyweds depart for a honeymoon aboard the Halcyon Star Cruiser, the luxury vessel at the heart of the new Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser experience at Disney World Resort.
What?
Yep. So they're sending Han and Leia to our $5,000 hotel, Milton.
What? That's trash. Get out of here with that. No. Stop. No. I ain't reading this book.
But it's like, dang it, they started off so good because they're like, in the article, they're like paying homage to the other story that was in Legends called The Courtship of Princess Leia. Like, I think I actually have that book.
Yeah, I think I have that on audio.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, great, we're actually getting some cool, like, post-Return of the Jedi material involving some of the big three, then this. So I hope that it's, like, a very quick chapter where they're on this thing, and then they're like, okay, we did that.
No,
they're going to stay on the thing for 20
use
chapters.
That trash hotel to don't try to promote that trash in a book. Nope, I'm out.
We've seen it coming. We've seen this coming a while away, because when the
No,
Galaxy's
you're not wrong, but like I'm not reading it because
Yeah.
because you're not gonna get me to like that garbage hotel that's super expensive yeah, I ain't gonna get into it. You already know my feelings on it.
But Milton, you can go to the room where Han and Leia stayed to conceive Ben.
No, I'm good. I'd rather do that. I'd rather do that at a Marriott or La Quinta. I'll go to the local La Quinta around here.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man, because we got, let's say it's March or it's February 18th. This Galactic Star Cruiser is opening up in just about 2 weeks, and I'm ready for further reviews. I'm actually like chomping at the bit to start seeing what the mass public has to say. That's not sensitized by Disney. You know what I mean?
It's a mass public of rich people, dude. You ain't no poor people can't go there. It's too yeah, stop. I'm over it.
Oh man. All right. Well, I think this one will excite you a little bit more. So over on the Star Wars show, which goes with they release a video every Thursday, they announced
that show
cool.
Still exists?
Actually, no, I was wrong. Actually, the Star Wars show is on a long time hiatus. This week in Star Wars, I think, or this week in whatever. They announced that there's a new Star Wars timeline book coming out. Like, people have been wanting a book like this for freaking years. It's like, well, where does this take place? Where does this take place? Like, we want like a cool timeline of like where certain movies are taking place in years and everything else. And in a few of the DK reference books for like The Force Awakens or like Rogue One, they do have like a very brief kind of timeline, but I hope that this timeline actually includes like the novels in the comics and everything like that, because that's what's so cool about Star Wars, and why I just dive so much into the canon on this channel, is because it's great to see something like this where everything is connected. Something that really excited me about this, though, specifically, is it says right on the front of the book, Star Wars timelines from the time before the High Republic to the fall of the First Order. It's like, wait, before the High Republic, because the High Republic is the earliest point in the Star Wars timeline. Are we actually getting our first look at the Old Republic in this book? Because maybe they're gonna start spreading some seeds. I think it could be a possibility. I mean, what else is before the High Republic? The Old Republic eventually. So that's the highlight that I got out of this announcement is, I mean, this is supposed to be coming out November of this year, so we're gonna have to wait a long time. But by that time, hell, they might have announced an Old Republic trilogy by that point at Celebration. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah, I thought when you sent us that article, it's great they're releasing this, because to me, I'm a person, anyways, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a person who likes these type of things, whether it be like timelines or maps of like, oh, hey, this is here, that's there. Like, I like this sort of stuff, and I actually can't wait to get this book.
Yeah, I think I'm interested in this because I do like, again, it's just the nerd stuff, I think, with all of us, just knowing the ins and outs. There's more information that we can learn about and then say to our friends, oh, hey, by the way, did you know blankety blank took place this time during this part of the movie? Like, I love being that person in my little group that'd be like, oh, I know all the Star Wars stuff. They go to Milton, he knows what he's talking about when it comes to Star Wars. Seriously, people know me in my circle, in my family. Oh, Milton's a Star Wars guy.
Oh man, so there you have it. Chock full episode of news, of reviews, of discussions, of trailer breakdowns. We pretty much covered most of our usual stuff in 1 2-hour episode. So thanks guys for joining me once again. As always, you guys can join us live every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern here on YouTube at the channel Starrapter. If you're listening, or if you want to listen to us, search Outer Rim Transmission and you'll find our new episodes of the podcast up around early morning every Monday, with that episode following that Friday's stream. We also have t-shirts and other shirts available at teespring.com. Just search Outer Rim Transmission. Gonna throw it over to you guys. I know you don't really have much going on with the NFL these days, but is there anything else you guys might be talking about on Twitter these days?
I mean, I'll just talk about, sports, randomly tweet sports or like whatever with workouts, whatnot. But not really nothing going on this weekend, except for spending time with family. I think, this weekend is President's Day weekend, so we have a 3-day week from work, which is really nice. So I'm just going to enjoy my family, hang out, go to the gym like I normally do, and just relax.
Nothing wrong with that. I did the same exact thing last Monday. Literally just chilled and watched the Old Republic stuff and played that other Star Wars board game I have. So a lot of fun to be had there. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much doing the same thing, just hanging out, working out. Have the house to myself all weekend, which is nice, so I can just kind of relax, play some Xbox, watch some shows, probably order some pizza tomorrow night. Just some little things. My diet's going pretty well, so that's a good thing. Down another pound. So yeah, just the norm minus football being involved. So yeah, and you can find me at Real Ben Maynard on Twitter and Instagram, and don't forget to follow Milton at MiltonWeber7 as well.
Yep, there we go. Yeah, Twitter, hit me up on Instagram. We can just chat it up. Doesn't matter.
There you go. And as far as my channel, I only put out one video this week because I was trying to get this review underway for the Old Republic. But I do have my reaction to me watching the trailer, so you can see my shocked face when Malgus shows up and all that kind of thing. So go ahead and check that out. And going forward, we have a couple comics, or we have one comic, I should correct myself. We also have a High Republic manga coming out, The Edge of Bounds Volume 2. So you can look for my reviews next week, and if there's any breaking Star Wars stuff, I might make a video about it as well. So check me out on the channel. Subscribe if you're just catching us for the first time. Thanks for everybody joining the chat. We had Shrug Knuckles Fist Bump, we had Joshua F. Benella, and we had Chris Forsyth. You guys can always join us live every Friday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern. So for Milton, for Ben, for me, Chris, aka Starrapter, thanks everybody for joining us for Outer Rim Transmission number 46, End Transmission. There we go.